to today's segment of Black History and Black Heritage in the King James 1611 Holy Bible. For many centuries, many decades, and many years, our history as a people has been relegated into the corner. We have been given 1 month out of the year, where it's not enough months nor years to contain a substantial amount of our true history. The history that we know is American-based history, magnifying the Civil Rights Movement, the Jim Crow era, and slavery as a whole, neglecting to uncover the other half of our history of what occurred before slavery. What happened? What land did we come from as a people? What is our true nationality according to the Bible? What food do we eat? What language do we speak? What lands do we come from? And last and not least is what? Why did Africans sell other Africans to slavery? That's the question that we ask ourselves on a daily basis. But the answers remain hidden to us. I'd like to point out a quote that Willie Lynch once stated in the Willie Lynch letter, The Making of a Slave. We get to documents. This is the book. Those of you that don't know, this is the Willie Lynch letter and The Making of a Slave. Okay? Now can you go to the next slide, please? This one right here. Okay, Willie Lynch once stated in his letter, The Willie Lynch Doctrine and the Making of a Slave. Our experts warned us about the possibility of this phenomenon occurring. For they say the mind has a strong drive to correct and recorrect itself over a period of time, if it can touch substantial, original, historical base. So Willie Lynch said, if these people, the blacks, which were enslaved for over 400 years, if they could touch original, historical, substantial base, meaning go back to the origins of who we are as a people. And they advise us that the best way to deal with this phenomenon is to shave off the brute's mental history. So in order to keep them from returning to their origins, their true history according to the Bible, is to shave off their history, meaning to create different histories, to create lies, to create illusions of who we are as a people. Right? To shave off the brute's mental history and create a multiplicity of phenomenon of illusions, that each illusion will twirl in its own orbit, something similar to floating balls in a vacuum. So each of these illusions that Willie Lynch will create will be illusions floating in a ball, like a vacuum machine. What? You go this way. What? We're Africans. This way. We're Asiatic. This way. Everywhere our history leads, but not towards the right way, which is the straight path of who we actually are according to the Bible. Now sit back, enjoy, and welcome to our true heritage in the Bible. Give me Job 8, verse 8. It
says, for inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers.
So Job, a prophet of the Bible, is inquiring and praying, asking and praying for the people of the Bible, the people of the book, to search the histories of their ancestors, of the former age. We as a people must do an extensive, in-depth search into the deep recesses of historical archives, because of the years of diluting, destroying, misguiding, and misleading of who we are as a people. We fail to look at the very book that's been in front of us the whole time, that's been in our bookshelves, which is the Bible, which contains every detail and aspect of black history, whether you like it or not. But this is the truth according to the Bible. Read on.
It says, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers.
And prepare thyself for the search of their fathers. Read on.
For we are but of yesterday.
Some of us were born 24 years ago. Some of us was born 30 years ago, and 50, 60 years ago. We are but of yesterday. Read on.
And know nothing.
We know nothing, like Willie Lynch once stated in his letter, but to give them an illusions, that one illusion leads to another illusion. What we're taught in an educational system, what we're taught in a religious institution, what the TV teaches us as a whole, have nothing been but illusions. So many people know what? If you want to learn anything, if you want to keep anything from a black person, hide it in a book. That's why they kept us from reading in slavery. That's why in the educational systems, we learn about just what the Civil Rights Movement, Jim Crow era, and slavery. They don't go beyond our true history. What happened before slavery even happened?
Because our days upon earth are a shadow.
For our days upon earth are a shadow, meaning we come and go. So many of you have seen Malcolm X. Many of you seen what? Denzel Washington playing Malcolm X, standing up boldly, professing Revelation 1:14, showing that Christ was a black man of woolly hair. Some of you have even seen European artwork and paintings, which shows the black Madonna, which shows the people of the Bible are being black. But like I said, this history has been hidden from us. Our image as a whole, our identity, our sense of self has been whitewashed, has been destroyed. And when you lose your identity, your sense of self, you start to identify yourself with another people. You start to identify yourself with another race. And this will happen to us as people. We have to identify ourselves with everybody but who we are as a people. Give me Hosea 3 verse 4. Right? And let's go to biblical images.
4. For the children of Israel.
For the children of Israel, the people of the Bible, the people of the book, read on.
Shall abide many days without a king, and without a prince, and without a sacrifice, and without an image.
And without a what?
And without an image.
Say that one more time. Without a what?
And without an image.
We have abided many days without an image. The only images we have as a whole is that of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, Marcus Garvey. These are the images that we have as a people. Nothing but of suffering, of oppression. So if you convey to a people an image of nothing but suffering and oppression, we will begin to act out those images. And that's how we become debased as a people and in a low estate. Because our images has not been an image of uplifting us as who we are as a people. So we will what? Read that again.
For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king, and without a prince, and without a sacrifice, and without an image.
And without an image. Now, let's get the history of when our images was taken away from us as a people. Let's get 1 Maccabees 3, verse 48. Now, many of you have heard of the book of the Apocrypha. Just to give you background information on the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha is a book which bridges the gap between the Old Testament and the New Testament. Can you show them the Bible? What's showing the Apocrypha in it?
Yeah, this is it right here.
It's the King James Original 1611 Holy Bible. Now, can you get to where it says Apocrypha? Where it shows
it says the Holy Bible containing the Old and New Testaments and the Apocrypha.
So the Bible containing the Old, New Testament, and the Apocrypha. Because what we know in the book of Malachi, which is during the Persian and Medes captivities, was the last Roman captivity before the Old Testament. Before the end of the Old Testament. Now, you have the New Testament. Rome came into power. Who came before Rome? Greeks. Alexander and the Greeks came to power. Now, in order to jump from the Persian and Medes to the Romans, you have to acknowledge the Greeks. And the Apocrypha acknowledges the Greeks in the rulership. Now, this is from the book of the Apocrypha, 1 Maccabees 3, verse 48.
1 Maccabees chapter 3, verse 48. And laid open the book of the law.
And laid open the book of the law. Now, this is during the time of Mattathias, Maccabees, and Judas Maccabees. When they laid open the book of the law, which is the Bible. This is during the time of 167 BC. When the Greeks were in rulership, when they went to Egypt, they went on a conquest to take over Ptolemy and overthrow his empire. Him and the Greek armies passing through Jerusalem laid open the book of the law, which is the Bible. Read on.
Wherein the heathen.
Wherein the what?
Wherein the heathen.
Now, many people think heathen means a bad person. That's what is taught to us in a religious institution. Well, heathen usually means a non-Israelite person, according to the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. Where the heathen making reference to the Greeks. The Greeks at the time laid open the book of the law. Read on.
Had sought to paint the likeness of their images.
The Greeks had sought to paint the likeness of their images. Now, for the Greeks to paint the likeness of the images, mean they had to change the people of the Bible. Now, we know the Greeks were of Caucasian descent, or so-called white people of today's standards. Now, we know Greeks look like the people of today. Now, it's shown to us today at times that the people of the Bible are Caucasians. Now, if the people of the Bible are Caucasians, why would the Greeks have to lay open the Bible and paint their images? Why? Because the people of the Bible look different from what the Greeks look like. They were not of Caucasian descent or white people, according to the Bible. Now, let's go in history during the Renaissance era, 1453. This happened twice in history. During the Greeks, when they were ruling in rulership, and during Spain, when they came back in rulership, during the Renaissance era, meaning the rebirth. Can we go back to documents? Let's go back to documents, and let's get icons. Let's show them the book, Icons. Now this book is a very expensive book. It's hard to find on the internet. This book is hidden at some point. It took me a long time to get this book. Now Icon has a lot of information about the iconic pictures recorded during the European era, during the Middle Ages and Dark Ages. Now this is the book cover, Icons. Now let's go to the next page. Nope, right here. Okay. Okay. Can you maximize this? Go to what? Okay. This is from the book Icons. This is from the chapter, The Icons of Constantinople, by Kurt Weitzman. Constantinople, okay? Go to left. Can you read that?
It says, iconoclasm, Venetian looting in 1204, and the sack by the Turks in 1453 are the main reasons why only very few icons have survived in Constantinople.
So 1453, the Renaissance era, is the reason why only a few iconic pictures survived. This is the year where a lot of the iconic pictures were destroyed, were whitewashed, as we're going to read on.
It may seem daring, therefore, to write an entire chapter on the icons of the capital, yet the situation is not quite so hopeless as might appear at first glance.
They said at first glance it might seem hopeless because a lot of the images were destroyed and very few images survived from 1453, when Spain came in rulership and started whitewashing and destroying all the images. They hired so-called iconoclasts, meaning image breakers. They were paid and hired to whitewash and break and destroy the images of the Bible.
Icons existed not only as pan paintings icons existed not only as pan paintings, but also as frescoes and wall mosaics.
So icons also existed as wall mosaics, meaning paint pictures and depictions of the people of the Bible. Read on.
Some of which have emerged from layers of whitewash.
So some of these iconic images were emerged from layers of whitewash, meaning they were made white. Just like during the time of the Greek Empire, when it says the heathen has sought to paint the likeness of their images. Just as like the Romans came back in powership as Spain. In 1453, the Renaissance era, they whitewashed all the images of the people of the Bible. Read on.
Some of which have emerged from layers of whitewash to give an undiluted impression of the highest achievements of Constantinopolitan art.
Okay, now let's see, what are the images of the Bible? What are the depictions of the people of the book? Let's get Genesis 2 verse 7. Now let's get biblical images.
Genesis chapter 2 verse 7. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground.
And God formed man of the dust of the ground. Now, when you examine the dust of the ground, what color is the dust of the ground? You can look outside right now. The dust of the ground is different shades of brown. The deeper you go into the ground, the darker it gets. Now, some of you might not believe that. You need more evidence, more proof. Now, let's go back to the iconic pictures. Not this one. Let's go to the top. Go to the top. Our Living Bible. Our Living Bible, press that. Now, this is a book called Our Living Bible. Our Living Bible was written by Michael Avi Yona and Emil G. Gralin. All right? This book you can pick up in the stores. This book you can find on eBay in different sites. All right? Let's go to the next picture. Now read that picture again. Read that.
Genesis chapter 2 verse 7. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground.
And God formed man of the dust of the ground. Now we see one of the pictures which will emerge. It was not, like the book said, it doesn't seem hopeless, but some of these pictures emerge out of layers of whitewashing. Now let's see one of the pictures that emerged out of layers of whitewashing. Adam and Eve on a fresco from the catacomb at Naples. Many of you visited Rome. Many of you visited the Colosseum. Little did you know that the things under the Colosseum was the catacombs, where you had the gladiators painted images of their forefathers. Now, this is one of the images of their forefathers, of them being what color? black. I'm going to hit the lights just so you guys can see a better depiction. What color are these people? These colored people are the same color as the ground. As you can see, the ground is brown. Because Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground. Just like these people, Adam and Eve, were formed from the dust of the ground. Yes, they were so-called black people. People of dark pigmentations. And this was taken from the catacombs. That's right. Where the gladiators were what? Fighting. Where they dwelt. Alright? Now, let's go to Jeremiah 14 verse 2. Let's get documents. Let's see more proof. Let's say that the dust of the ground is not different shades of brown or black, as we say it is. Jeremiah 14 verse 2.
Jeremiah chapter 14 verse 2. Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish.
Judah mourneth. Judah mourneth. What is the tribe of Judah? Judah is where Jew comes from. Jew is different derivative. Jew is the derivative of the word Judah. Now, a joint along with Judah was 3 tribes. The southern kingdom. Can you pass me the 12 tribes poster? Now, these were the 3 tribes which were joint to Judah, the southern kingdom. Because if you know the Bible, in history, there was 2 kingdoms, southern kingdom and northern kingdom, Judah and Israel, where the tribes split. Judah consists of the 12 tribes of Israel, of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. These made up the people which are the Jews. These people will be considered the American blacks today, the West Indian blacks, and the Haitians. Maybe you're still confused, but we're going to get in more detail as the lesson proceeds. Yes, it's very confusing. Hold on, be patient, relax. Everything's going to be explained as we go on. So these 3 people consisted of the Jews. Read that again.
Jeremiah chapter 14 verse 2. Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish.
So Judah is in mourning. Why? Because they're oppressed as a people. Because they're in sorrow. Because what? They have been suffering slavery over a period of time. So they're in a state of mourning. The biblical Jews. Read on.
Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. They are black.
They are what?
They are black.
They are white.
They are black.
Yellow.
They are black.
Green.
They are black.
They are black unto what?
Unto the ground.
Black unto the ground. Because when you examine the ground is different shades of brown. Just like you see me. I'm not black, but I'm what? Caramel. But they consider me black. They categorize me as being black. Right. Or you have some people that are light-skinned. They categorize them as being black. So black is a representation of different shades of brown. So it says the Jews are black unto the ground. Now, if we could go to this book, Nature Knows No Color Line. Some of you have this book. Some of you read this book. This is by J.A. Rogers, a black scholar, which went to Europe. J. Rogers went to Europe and took images, actual factual images and archaeological evidence of the people that were ruling during the Middle Ages and Dark Ages. And it said the Middle Ages were called Dark Ages for a reason. We're going to get that later on in the lesson. All right, now let's go to the next page. Okay, enlarge that, please. Okay, zoom in. Good. Now this is from page what? Can you scan down? Page 123 out of Nature Knows No Color Line. Have all the books on display for those of you that want to look at the books, actually read in the books, and see where can you get these books. All right, can you read that?
Nature Knows No Color Line, page 123. It says, Watts says, an interesting gradation of all shades down to the black is exhibited by the Jews.
So all shades down to the black were exhibited by the Jews. That's why it says, God formed man from the dust of the ground. Judah is black unto the ground. Different shades of brown. Black is a representation of different shades of brown. Read on.
Especially dark were the Jews of Spain and Portugal.
So the Jews of Spain and Portugal were very dark. It says a dark people, a dark pigmentation. Read on.
The Portuguese Jews were very dark, says Pritchard.
The Portuguese Jews were very dark. They were a very dark people. Read on.
The Duchess Abrantes, wife of Napoleon's ambassador to Portugal, said that the Negro, and the Portuguese could be seen in a single person.
Why could it be seen in a single person? You put the Jew, the Portuguese, and Negro, you combine them together, they are the same people. They were going on the name of different titles. because what? They were all black. One was called Portuguese because they lived in the land of Portugal. One was called Negro because Negro means black. And Jew is the nationality of 3 tribes, the southern kingdom of Israel. Read on.
So dark were the Jews.
So dark were the Jews.
Especially of Portugal and southern Spain.
That's when we used to, as a people, rule Spain. As you're going to read on, as we go on the lesson, you're going to see some of our images in Spain and Portugal. Read on.
That many whites thought all Jews
of Caucasian descent, read on,
were black.
So many whites thought all Jews were what?
Were black.
That's why it says they are black unto the ground. They thought all Jews were black. Read on.
Or dark.
Or dark, because the Jews were a dark-skinned people. They were black. They are a dark-skinned people. They are black. Read on.
This belief, said Barbet, shows what an error.
This belief shows what an error
most people are in.
Most people are in error to what are the true colors of the Jews. Who are the Jews in this current day? This modern era. Who are the Jews according to the Bible? That's the big biggest question.
Since he says the German Jews...
The German Jews, the ones that were in Germany and Poland, which were taken out of the land of Jerusalem in 1949. During the 1900s, early 1900s, during the League of Nations, when they were taken from Germany and placed in Israel, and Israel was declared a state. Okay?
The German Jews, as for example, those of Prague, are as white as most of their German countrymen.
So it says the German Jews are as white as their countrymen. Why?
Many of the Jews who were banished from Portugal by John II.
So it says many of the Jews are white as their German countrymen. Why? Because they were Germans. They converted to Judaism during the time of King Herod. When he came into power, in order to rule the Jewish state, he had to learn the laws of the Jews. So he started partaking in the laws of the Jews, and what his sons started partaking in, and his sons, and now that we have the people which inhabit Jerusalem or Israel, and the people now which are calling themselves Jews are actually descendants of King Herod. They converted to Judaism, but they are not actually the Jews according to the Bible. Now let's go to the next page. To the top. Okay, read that.
It says, settled in the West Indies.
So King John said,
Settled in the West Indies, John Bigelow, who visited Jamaica in 1850, saw the descendants of these Jews.
So wait, John, if anybody's Jamaican here, guess what? You are the descendant of the Jews. Why? Because John Bigelow, 1850, how long ago? That's not even 200 years ago. Not even 200 years ago. And he saw the descendants of the Jews in Jamaica. Read on.
Saw the descendants of these Jews and says they were Negroid.
And these Jews were Negroid, meaning black people. So the people of the West Indian Islands, the Jamaicans, those are the descendants of the Jews. They come from the tribe of Benjamin. The tribe of Benjamin. That's the tribe Paul comes from, as we're going to see. What color was Paul? All right? Now, let's get more color scriptures according to the Bible. Let's get Job 30, verse 30. The forefather that told us to go into the search of our ancestors, to search the history of who we are as a people. Job 30, verse 30.
Job chapter 30, verse 30. My skin is black.
My skin is what?
My skin is black upon me.
My skin is black upon me. That's very clear. Job was a black man. That's why he told his people to go in history in a search of the ancestors. Because Job, being a prophet, will see the future prophecies that shown that his people will lose their identity, lose their image, lose the sense of who they are as a people, and identify themselves with another people. Okay? Let's also get Wisdom, Song of Solomon 1 verse 1. Now, many of you read the book of Solomon, and can we get biblical images? Maybe you read the Song of Solomon and thought it was a woman speaking. We're going to see who wrote the Song of Solomon. 1 verse 1.
Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 1. The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's.
The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. Why? Because Solomon wrote the Song of Solomon. Read on.
Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 5. I am black.
Solomon said what?
I am black.
Solomon was a Jew, and he said he is what?
I am black.
Yes, Solomon said, I am black. And what?
But comely.
But comely, black and beautiful. That's what black is beautiful. That's why we say we're black women proud. Yes, we are black women proud.
That's right.
Just like Solomon says, I am black and comely and beautiful. Read on.
I am black but comely. O ye daughters of Jerusalem.
O ye daughters of Jerusalem.
As the tents of Kedar. As the curtains of Solomon.
As the curtains of Solomon. So Solomon says, I am black. Let's get this picture. This is another wall mosaic of Solomon's father, King David, taken during the time of the Renaissance era. This was one of the images that emerged that was not whitewashed or destroyed. This is how King David looked like, one of the kings of Israel. Look, it's here. Look at his skin texture, color. He's a black man. Look at how majestic he is, the way he dresses. Not like our black brothers dress nowadays with their pants below their butt.
Right.
This is how we dress. We dress what? Like royalty.
That's right.
We were a royal people, a majestic people. We carried ourselves like we were the kings of the earth. All right? Thank you. Now, let's get, what was Solomon's hair texture? Give me Song of Solomon 5 verse 11. Okay?
Song of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 11.
Okay?
His head is as the most fine gold.
His head as the most fine gold, because what? Solomon sprinkled gold in his hair. That's how Solomon rolled. You know?
His locks are
His
bushy.
locks are what?
Are bushy.
What are locks? Locks are braids, because the way you braid hair is by locking them. They're not dreadlocks. But his locks are bushy. What do you call bushy hair? Nappy, kinky, curly, woolly hair. His locks are bushy.
And black as a raven.
And his hair was black as a raven, meaning he had dark hair. So Solomon, let's see, he was black, he had a bushy, and he had braids in his hair. Who does that sound like today? They have black, they have bushy hair, woolly hair, kinky hair, and have braids. That's right. That's your people living in America. The people they call Negroes or African American. Those are the people that have black skin. Those people whose hair texture are bushy. Those people who wear braids. We were wearing braids ever since the time of King Solomon. Now let's get Exodus 4 verse 6. Let's see Moses, the deliverer of the Israelites in Egypt. Exodus 4 verse 6.
Exodus chapter 4 verse 6. And the Lord said furthermore unto him, Put now thine hand into thy bosom.
To Moses, put now thy hand into thy bosom.
And he put his hand into his bosom.
And he put his hand into his bosom. Read on.
And he put his hand into his bosom, and when he took it out.
So he put his hand in his shirt, and when he took it out, what happened?
His hand was leprous as snow.
His hand was leprous as snow. What happened to Moses' skin? He lost pigmentation, and his skin became white. Why? Because Moses was a black man. Because just like Michael Jackson, they call it vitiligo. So Michael Jackson lost all pigmentation in his skin. He became white. Now let's get another depiction of Moses. Can you scroll up? See, scroll down a little bit. Right here. Okay, as you see, right here. Can you zoom in? Right here. Zoom in. Go down. Well, that's a little too much. It says above, prophet Moses. Above prophet Moses, the Moses of the Bible. Now scroll up. What color is Moses? Yes, that's right. He's a black man. These are the images of our forefathers, what they painted during the time of Europe. The Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, when dark people ruled Europe. That's why it's called the Dark Ages. Moses was a very dark-skinned person, as you can see. Moses had woolly hair, kinky hair, bushy hair, nappy hair. That's the type of hair. No, Moses did not perm his hair. This is his original hair. Look at Moses' outfit. Majestic. We used to wear garments. This is how we dressed. This is not how we dress now, but this is how we used to dress. Like royalty. Once again, not like our brothers that walk with their pants below their behind, which is a shame with the direction our brothers take nowadays. All right. Now, we show some images. We show the Jews were black according to the Bible. The Jews were very dark people. The people of the Bible were people of dark pigmentation. Now, Now, some of you might be saying, okay, but we were still taken from the coast of West Africa. We were taken from Africa and brought to America. We look like the Africans. And the motherland must be Africa, because that's what they tell us. Give me Galatians 4, verse 26. Let's see what the scriptures, the Holy Bible says. What is the true motherland?
Galatians chapter 4, verse 26. But Jerusalem,
what?
Which is above, is free.
Jerusalem is above all nations on earth. That's why it was called the chosen land. That's why it was called the promised land, the holy land. That's why you have controversies in Jerusalem at this very moment. You have the Israelis and Palestinians fighting over the land that is not theirs. Why? Because Jerusalem is above all nations on the planet Earth. Read on.
Which is the mother.
Which is the mother of what?
Of us all.
Wait, no, Africa is the motherland of us all.
But Jerusalem, which is above, is free.
Jerusalem is above is free, which is what?
The mother.
The mother
of us all.
Jerusalem is the motherland according to the Bible. Jerusalem is where the first man, black man, Adam, was formed from the dust of the ground. Jerusalem is where the Garden of Eden was. Jerusalem is where all life consists of. Now, we say, okay, now, how do we get to the shores of West Africa? Because a lot of people are confused with that, or even with the term Africa. Because we identify ourselves with Africans. Now, Africans don't even identify themselves with Africans. Why? Because in order to call yourself an African, you must be a descendant of Leo Scipius Africanus. So, I don't think anybody here is Italian. If you're Italian, then you're not an African. So let's get Psalms 49, verse 11. And can we get back to maps? Psalms 49, verse 11. Like I said, if you have a Bible, take out your Bible and read along.
Psalms chapter 49, verse 11. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever.
Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever. Read on.
And their dwelling places to all generations.
Okay.
They call their lands.
They call their what?
They call their lands.
They call their lands after what?
Their own names.
They call the lands after their own names. What? Because during what? Leo Scipius Africanus, during the Second Punic War, when he conquered Hannibal, he named the landmass of the coast of Africa, the continent of Africa, Africa, after his victory. But Africa was not always called Africa. The people are not of the land of Africa are not descendants of Leo Scipius Africanus. They are descendants of another people. Now, let's get me Psalms 105, verse 23. Who are the African people that we call Africans today descendants from? And are we of that lineage? Are we of that ethnicity and race of people?
Psalms chapter 105, verse 23.
Psalms 105, verse 23. Read on.
Israel also came into Egypt.
Many people know the history of Israel and all even seen the movie Ten Commandments, when Charlton Heston played Moses, which was a Caucasian man. We know Moses was a Caucasian, according to the scriptures and archaeological proof. Moses was a black man. Read that again.
Israel also came into Egypt.
Israel came into Egypt during the famine, when Joseph, the son of Israel, which is Jacob, because Israel means what? The prince of the powers. His name was turned into Israel after he wrestled the angel. So Israel went into what?
Israel also came into Egypt.
Israel also came into Egypt to what?
And Jacob sojourned.
And Jacob, which is Israel's sojourn, means stayed and lived where?
In the land of Ham.
Because before Africa was called Africa, it was called the land of Ham. That's right. Can we get the map? Now as you can see, the coast of Africa, the continent of Africa, was actually called the land of Ham. Why? Because Ham is the son of Noah, and he inhabited the different areas of Africa. The people of this land is actually descendants of Ham. They're Hamitic. Now, Israel used to be a province of the land of Ham. Used to be a province of Egypt. But once we migrated and took over Israel, this land, it turned into Israel, which was all before called Canaan. Right? So it says the land of Ham. Now, let's see, the land of Ham. If we're saying the people are Hamitic descent, of the people of Ham, let's see what the scholarly Bible dictionary says about this. Can we get the documents? Because the scholars know about this information I'm bringing up. They have it in these books. Once again, you want to hide anything from a Negro? They say what? Hide it in a book. We got the books. It's no longer going to be hidden from our people, of who we are as a people. All the evidence containing where did we come from? How do we get to the coast of West Africa? And why was Africans selling Africans? It makes no sense. Why would they sell millions upon millions of their own people? All right? This is from the Compact Bible Dictionary, right here. Okay, zoom in to Ham. Okay, zoom in right here. Can you read that?
Ham. This is Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary. Ham, perhaps Ha, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood.
So Ham was a son of Noah. Noah had 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. You know?
He became the progenitor.
I mean, he became the forefather, because that's what progenitor means, of what?
Of the dark races.
Of the dark races, people of dark pigmentation. Read on.
Not the Negro.
Wait a minute, I thought Negro means black. Negroes are dark people. So why would the Zondervan Bible Dictionary write not the Negroes? If we are of Hamitic descent, if we are the same people of Ham, why would they write and make a clear distinction saying not the Negroes? Because we were titled Negroes in America after slavery. We were called the Negroes. They consider us to be Negroes.
He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes.
Not the people living in America, West Indians and Haitian.
But the Egyptians.
But he's a forefather of the Egyptians. Ham had a son named Mizraim. They are the Egyptians. Now we know Egyptians are dark people, not the people that live in Egypt right now, which are the Arabic descent. But they portray themselves as being the Egyptians. They were not Egyptians. Egyptians were people of dark pigmentation. You know what?
But the Egyptians, Ethiopians.
Ethiopians come from Cush. Maybe you heard of Nimrod in history. He comes from Cush. He was an Ethiopian. They were a dark people. Read on.
Libyans.
The Libyans. They come from Put. They were a dark people. Not the people in Libya right now, because the Libyans now, they're Arabs.
Right.
But the Libyans back then were Africans, or still are Africans. So not all people living in the coast of Africa are Africans. You have Caucasians living in South Africa, but they're not considered so-called Africans. You have Arabs living in Egypt and Libya, but they don't call them Africans. But when it gets to us, we're called Africans. Why? Because we're dark and we came from the west coast of Africa. That is one of the illusions that Willie Lynch said in his letter, Making of a Slave. That's making a multiplicity of illusions, and illusions that lead to another illusion, but that we will never find out what is our true nationality and heritage according to the Bible.
And Canaanites.
And the Canaanites are the South Africans. Now, let me get Genesis 15, verse 13. Because I want to get back to this point. Because after Israel was in the land of Ham, they were going to go back to this. Can you get me biblical images? Okay, Genesis 15.
Genesis chapter 15, verse 13. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs.
Abraham said, God said to Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed, meaning thy descendants, thy lineage, will be a stranger in a land that is not theirs. You know what?
And shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years.
So he say your descendants will serve them and be what? Afflict them how many years?
And they shall afflict them 400 years.
This scripture is twofold. When did this happen? During Egypt. After Israel went to Egypt, they were enslaved by the pharaohs. What happened? When did this happen again? America. That's right.
That's right.
What did they say? We were slaves for how long? About 400 years. This prophecy happened twice. Just like they built pyramids in Egypt, same way we built America up. We built the Washington Monument, Washington, D.C., which is the capital of America. We built Wall Street, which is the financial district of America. We built the treasure cities of America, just like we built the treasure cities of ancient Egypt.
Right.
We served 400 years in ancient Egypt. We served about 400 years in America. Right? And those of you who have never seen a documentary, Glenn Beck did a special showing the pyramids and the temple mounds that were built in Oklahoma. Temple mounds, the Native American Indians. You have the Aztec Indians that built pyramids. You have the Mayan Indians that built pyramids. Glenn Beck did a special, you can find it on YouTube, when they measured the pyramids, and it's the exact dimensions, the exact measurements of that of ancient Egypt pyramids. Why? Because the people that built the pyramids on the Western Hemisphere built the pyramids in ancient Egypt. The same people built pyramids. Now let's read that.
The thousands of war captives who were transformed into slaves, made it possible for the Egyptian kings to implement their feats of engineering.
So the Egyptian kings were able to make the pyramids and the treasure cities because they had slaves. Just like America, the only way America became a superpower is because of slaves. They say what? America was built off of the back of slaves. It would have existed for us if it wasn't for us. The foundation, the very foundation of America's economics and riches descends from the slave trade. You have your banking institutions, comes with slave money. Chase Bank recently made an apology because what? Their money was all from slave labor. Wall Street, we were the first trade. We were the first stocks on Wall Street. That's how America became rich. Slave money. Just like ancient Egypt. Read on.
It says, chain captives are shown on these painted clay facing plaques from a building erected by Ramses II in honor of the king's brave warriors. From the period of the 14th dynasty, Paris to Louvre. That's what it is.
So this is actually found in Paris and Louvre. Those of you that have traveled, have been across the world, this is in the Louvre, Paris and Louvre. Now let's see one of the depictions of the slaves that lived in ancient Egypt. Now let's see, look at the features of this woman with yokes of iron upon her neck. Look at her lips. Look at her nose. Look at her facial feature. Look at her color. This was a black woman. Why? Because the slaves in ancient Egypt were black people. The Israelites that were slaves, the Jews that were slaves in Egypt were black people. Look at this woman. This woman almost looks like Harriet Tubman. Look at her. Her facial features, her skin color, her nose, her lips. These are the descriptions of our people. This is what our people look like. We have bigger lips, bigger nose. We're dark-skinned people. Now let's go back to the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary. And give me Exodus 11, verse 7. So now, we're finding out the motherland is Jerusalem. The people of the Bible are black. Now we still might be confused of how do we get from the coast of Africa, West Africa? How do we get in there? We must be Africans because we inhabited that area, that landmass. Let's read right here. Became the progenitor.
It says, Ham. He became the progenitor of the dark races.
The dark races mean the people, what we call today Africans.
Not the Negroes.
Not the Negroes. Not the Negroes. Let's see if that's recorded in the Bible.
Exodus chapter 11, verse 7. But against any of the children of Israel.
But against any of the children of Israel.
Shall not a dog move his tongue.
Shall not even a dog move his tongue. Read on.
Against man or beast. That ye may know how that the Lord doth put a difference.
The Lord does put a difference. The Lord does put a difference. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes. The difference. Read on.
Between the Egyptians.
Between the Egyptians, which are descendants of Ham.
And Israel.
And Israel. Now, if he was the Israelites were Caucasian descent or white people according to the Bible, why would God have to put a difference between them? It'll be a clear difference. Let's go to the scriptures. Get me Genesis 42, verse 6. And can you go back to our biblical images? Down. Go to this one. Genesis 42, verse 6.
Genesis chapter 42, verse 6. And Joseph was the governor over the land.
Joseph, which was what? The son of Jacob, the son of Israel. He was the governor over land. He was in second in command over all of Egypt. Read on.
And he it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them. And he said unto them, Whence come ye? And they said, From the land of Canaan, to buy food. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew not him.
So Joseph knew his brother, but his brother didn't know him. So Joseph was a Caucasian man or white man. They would say, "Oh, you're one of me," because what? The Egyptians were dark people, black people. So he said, "Wait a minute. Well, don't try to blend in with the Egyptians. I know you. I can spot you out from the crowd." What? Now, let's get another depiction. Now, where was this taken from? Let's see. Can you read this right here?
Which one?
Right here? Painting?
It says, painting from the tomb of Nut, 15th century BC.
So this was actually taken from the Egyptian temples, the tombs. So many of you have been to Egypt, but probably never seen this picture, which is found in our Living Bible. Now read this. Who's this person the depiction of?
It says, So Joseph found favor in his sight and attended him, and he made him overseer of his house. The blessing of the Lord was upon all that had in his house and field.
This is Joseph, made an overseer of Pharaoh's house. If you can see his skin color, Joseph is a black man. That's why his brothers did not recognize him. You see his hair. This was a black man according to the Bible. Now, let's get another person which was confused as an Egyptian. Give me Exodus 2, verse 17.
Exodus chapter 2, verse 17. It says, And the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock.
Moses stood up and helped them. Read on. This topic is Moses.
And when they came to Ruel, their father, he said, How is it that you are come so soon today? And they said, An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds.
Wait, read that again. Now, who delivered us?
And they said, An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds.
Why did they confuse Moses with the Egyptian? Why? Because as we saw the depiction of the image before, Moses was a black man. He was a very dark-skinned man. All right, now let's get in the New Testament. We've been using a lot of scripture in the Old Testament. I know some of you like the New Testament a lot, so let's get to the New Testament. Let's get Acts 21, verse 37. Let's go back to biblical images. Let's go down, scroll down. All right, get this picture. Okay.
Acts chapter 21, verse 37. And as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said,
Subject matter, Paul, which was a Benjamite. Read on.
He said unto the chief captain, May I speak unto thee? Who said, Canst thou speak Greek?
Why? Paul spoke Greek. He was a man of many languages. He was very intelligent. Read on.
Art not thou that Egyptian?
Wait, they confused Paul of being an Egyptian. Why? Because that's like the scripture says, I put a difference between Israel and Egyptians. The Zondra Compact Bible Dictionary says what? Ham, the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes. There's a difference between blacks living in America and people of the land of Africa, which is of descendants of Ham. We are not of Ham. We are Semitic or Shemitic. We come from the lineage of Shem. Not all people are dark or Africans. Because what you have Arabs, they are black people. There are many black Arabs. You have Chinese. There are many dark black Chinese. You have Filipinos. You have Japanese. So these people are all black people, but not all the people descend from the same lineage. Now, as you can see, this is the picture of Paul, taken from the book of Icons. This is one of our images taken from the Middle Ages. As you can see. Now, we cover color in the Bible. We show you the difference between the color of the difference between an African, a so-called African, and a people of this day. That we are not descendants of Ham, but actually descendants of Israel, Jacob. Now, how did we get into the land of Africa? How did we get there? Because we were taken out there during the 1619 slave trade, transatlantic slave trade. Let's get the beginning of this. Get me 2 Maccabees, chapter 2. Okay.
2 Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1. The brethren, the Jews that be in Jerusalem and in the land of Judea.
The brethren, the Jews that be in Jerusalem and the land of what?
Judea. Wish unto the brethren, the Jews that are throughout Egypt.
Wish unto the brethren, the Jews that are throughout what?
Egypt.
Egypt is in northeastern Africa. You know what?
Health and peace.
So, Maccabees was writing to the Jews that live in Egypt. Why? Because the Jews migrated to Egypt when they were being persecuted by Antiochus Epiphanes IV. Now, let's get Acts 2, verse 5. Because we read the Old Testament and it says, what the prophet says, with the Jews that be out through Egypt. Now, when we get to the New Testament, it shows a further migration of where the Jews dwelt in, the lands that they inhabited in Africa.
Acts chapter 2, verse 5. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men, out of every nation under heaven.
There were Jews dwelling where?
At Jerusalem.
At Jerusalem.
Devout men. Out of every nation
nation under heaven. Because what? During the Babylonian captivity, the Jews were scattered in the lands of Babylon. During the Persian captivity, the Jews were scattered in the provinces of Persia. During the Greek captivity, the Jews were scattered in the land of the Greeks. Now we're in the Roman captivity, when Rome came into rulership. Read that again.
And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men, out of every nation under heaven.
Out of every nation under heaven. That's why the disciples were going to Greece. That's why they were going to Rome. You see, in the New Testament, they were called Greeks. Why? Because the Jews were taking on Greek customs. They were called Hellenists. That's why in America, we call ourselves Americans, but we're not Americans, we're citizens. Just like in Rome, in the book of Romans. They were speaking to the Jews which were in Rome, in Ephesus, the Jews that were in Ephesus. Why? Because they were in every nation because of slavery. Now give me verse 10.
Phrygia and Pamphylia, in Egypt.
And Egypt, these were some of the places the Jews were dwelling in. Read on.
And in parts of Libya.
And in parts of Libya. That's still northeast Africa. Now we start to penetrate the borders of Libya. Now we're in Libya. Read on.
About Cyrene.
About Cyrene. That's another place in Africa. Read on.
And strangers of Rome.
And strangers of Rome. Read on.
Jews and proselytes.
Jews and proselytes. So the Jews were in Rome. We're in Egypt. We're in Libya. We're in Cyrene. These are different coasts of Africa that we start inhabiting. Now give me Acts 8, verse 27. Let's get more information of what places, areas in Africa that we inhabited. The Jews.
Acts chapter 8, verse 27. And he arose and went, and behold, a man of Ethiopia.
This is Philip. He arose and went, and behold, a man of Ethiopia. It says of Ethiopia. If you're of somewhere, you're not that actual nationality. He came from the land. Read that again.
And he arose and went, and behold, a man of
Ethiopia. Read on.
And eunuch of great authority under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians.
Okay, read on.
Who had the charge of all her treasure, and had come to Jerusalem for the worship.
So we also inhabited the lands of Ethiopia. That's why during the time and birth of Christ, he ran to a specific place. Because why? There were Jews and Africa living there already. Now let's get Christ, the Messiah. Let's see, where did he go? Give me Matthew 2, verse 13.
Matthew chapter 2, verse 13. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream.
The angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph. Joseph, the biological father of Christ. Yes, right. Joseph's father was Christ, not an angel that impregnated Mary. Now, let's get a depiction of what Joseph looked like, according to the Bible.
Christ's father.
Yes, Christ's father. Joseph.
And when they would
Yes.
And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying.
So, as you can see, this is another image, a depiction of Joseph during the time of Europe when we were rulership. You can see, it's very hard to see, but you can see his hair texture. His hair texture is woolly, almost in a fro. You can see his skin color. Joseph is a dark-skinned man.
That's right.
What? As is the father, so is the son. King David was a dark-skinned man. King Solomon was a dark-skinned man. And Christ comes from the lineage of those two kings. And he comes from the lineage of Joseph, which was a dark-skinned man with woolly hair. Now, Christ the same way. Read on.
And when they were departed, Matthew chapter 2, verse 13.
Uh-huh.
And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt.
And flee into where?
Into Egypt.
Now Christ fled into Egypt. Now there's a reason why Christ fled into Egypt. There's two specific reasons. Now can you get me back to the maps? Now one reason Christ fled into Egypt is because, let's get here. Show this map right here. Egypt is connected to Israel and Jerusalem. They are connected by mountains. As you can see right here, this is the landmass of Israel. Go down, go low, go lower, 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 penetrating the borders into Egypt. Now, these are the mountains that Christ took because it's connecting to Egypt. This is a direct route that the Israelites took coming out of the land of Egypt into the land of Israel. You see the pathways? Boom. Israel. Boom. The path. Egypt. That's why Christ ran into Egypt. That's why the Jews during the time of the Greeks ran into Egypt. That's why we always inhabited Egypt, because Egypt is touching Israel. Now let's get another map. Go back to maps. Let's get the direct route that Christ took. As you can see, Jerusalem, where Christ came from. Right here. Now let's go. Let's follow this. Let's follow the screen. Go down. So keep going, keep going, keep going. Joseph and his family flee into Egypt because the angel forewarned them of Herod's intent to murder Jesus. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Egypt. As we showed you before, the mountains are connected into Egypt. Israel and Egypt are connected. They're congruent to each other. Now, one reason why the Jews fled to Egypt, because Egypt is right there. Israel is a part of Egypt. They're connected together. Now, let's get another reason why. Now, if Christ was a white man, why would he run into Egypt amongst the black people? Let's get the depiction of Christ. Revelations 1, verse 1. Yes, this is in the Bible. The images, depictions of our forefathers has been recorded for us to know in this present time. Revelations 1, verse 1.
Revelation chapter 1, verse 1. The revelation of Jesus Christ.
The revelation, the revealing of Jesus Christ. Read on.
Which God gave unto him.
Wait, who gave it to him?
Which God gave unto him.
So God himself gave it unto John. Because that's who wrote the book of Revelation. John. Now let's get verse 11. What did God give him to do?
Saying, I am Alpha and Omega, the first and the last.
Read on.
And what thou seest.
What thou seest, John, do what?
Write in a book.
So what you see with your two eyes, John, write in a book. Write it in a book. Read on.
And send it unto the 7 churches which are in Asia, unto Ephesus and Smyrna and Pergamos and Thyatira and Sardis and unto Philadelphia and unto Laodicea.
Why send it there? Because during the Greek captivities, we were moved to these different land masses. That's why he said send it to those churches. So those people of that land could receive the word, receive the depiction of Christ. Now, why would Christ say, what thou seest, write it in the book? Revelation 1, verse 13. There's a reason why.
Revelation chapter 1, verse 13.
Can you give me the image of Caesar?
And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks.
In the midst of the 7 candlesticks. Now, can you pull me up this image right here? In the midst of the 7 candlesticks. No, not the 8 candlesticks. Not the 9 candlesticks. Because nowadays they changed the candlesticks. The biblical candlesticks were 7. Read on.
And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks.
In the midst of the 7 candlesticks, what?
One like unto the Son of Man.
One like unto Christ. Read on.
Clothed with a garment down to the foot.
He had a garment down to the foot, just like King David had a garment. Just like Moses had a garment. We wore garments, just like Solomon had a garment. All of our fathers wore garments. That's how we dressed. Read on.
And girt about the paps with a golden girdle.
And he had a golden girdle around his waist. Read on.
His head and his hairs.
His head and his hairs were what?
Were white like wool.
White like wool. Who has white woolly hair to today's standards? That's right. The American blacks. The Negroes. The people that have kinky, nappy hair. Christ had kinky, nappy hair, what they call today. Why? Because we descend from Christ. Christ is of our lineage. Christ today will be considered an American black man. That's to today's standards. He had white and woolly hair, just like the depiction shows. Read on.
His head and his hairs were white like wool.
Were white like wool.
As white as snow.
As white as snow.
And his eyes were as a flame of fire.
And his eyes were as a flame of fire. When you read the prophecies in Genesis 49, verse 12, it shows Christ will come and drink wine. That's why he didn't get drunk, because what he drank with moderation. So his eyes were as red with flames of fire, because Christ drank wine. That's right. Read on.
And his feet like unto fine brass.
Wait, and his what?
And his feet like unto fine brass.
His feet were like unto fine brass. What color is brass? Different derivatives of brown. Now, a person, if their feet are one color, guess what? The rest of the body's going to be another color. They're not a chameleon. They can't camouflage. His feet be what? Brown, and his rest of his body be green and blue and orange. It's impossible. So his feet was what?
Like unto fine brass.
Fine brass as what?
As if they burned in a furnace.
As if they burned in a furnace. You burn anything. You burn white rice, it turns black. You burn in a furnace, what? It turns black. Christ was a dark-skinned man. Read on.
And his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace. And his voice as the sound of many waters.
That's why he's telling black people, keep it down, you guys too loud. Because what? Our voice is very loud. They say Negroes are so loud, why can't they keep loud? This is a library, quiet.
Right.
Why? Because Christ had what type of voice?
And his voice.
And his voice was
as the sound
of many
waters.
Think of Niagara Falls, the sound. Christ had a loud voice, just like I have a loud voice. That's why black people have a loud voice. They say they can't keep their mouth shut. Because our forefather had a loud voice. Now, we're going to show you a depiction of the people that many of you guys think this is Christ. Many have been deceived. And like I said, Willie Lynch, like he said before, keep them in a multiplicity of illusions. This is what they did during the 1453 Renaissance era, when they whitewashed our images of our forefathers. You see? Can you hold this up? This man right here, the ones that's depicted as Christ, all over the TV stations and these Disney World. This is actually indeed Caesar Borgia. Many of you have seen the show on HBO, the Borgia's family. It came out as the original crime family. Caesar Borgia is the reason why the white image of Christ exists to this very day.
Right.
During the 1453, during the Renaissance era, you have Pope Alexander VI, which is Caesar Borgia's father, hired Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo to paint images of his son. As you can see right here, this is taken out of the book. The Borgias. This is taken out of the book, and these are sketches. Caesar Borgia by Leonardo da Vinci. These are the actual sketches of him sketching Caesar Borgia as being Christ. This is the man right here. This is the tyrant of over Spain. He was considered a tyrant and the most wicked person ever to rule. See the images? So this is the person that they set up as Christ. Give me Revelation 13, verse 15. Now let's see if this is in the Bible. Because maybe you're saying, well, what is this image of the beast? That must be racist. Let's see what the Bible says. Everything that we bring out is according to the scripture. We go exactly as the scripture says. We don't make up our own words. We don't go according to our own words.
Revelation chapter 13, verse 15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast.
And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. When Rome came back as Spain, during the Renaissance, they had power to give life to the image of the beast. They gave the life of Caesar Borgia to Christ. And they made Caesar Borgia as Christ. Read on.
And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast.
Read on.
That the image of the beast should both speak.
How does it speak? In your television stations, in Disney World, during your plays. That's how it speaks. Read on.
And cause that as many as would not worship.
As many as not worship this image of the beast, read on.
Should be killed.
That's what happened during slavery. We were forced to accept this image. We were forced on the cotton fields. They said, if you don't accept this image, if you don't accept our religion, our doctrine, you will be killed. So we were forced into worshiping this and accepting this as Christ. Now, there's a saying in the world. As is the Son, so is the Father. You look like your father. Many of you have fathers that look exactly like your father. Now, let's get depictions of God. Now, before we get depictions of God, let's go back to biblical images. This is another icon. Take it. Go low. Go above. Go to the left. Now, this is another picture, one of my favorites, which was taken down out of the Dark Ages. As you can see this is a representation of Christ. What kind of hair he has? Woolly hair. He had a fro. That's why you have many of our brothers during the 60s, 70s, 80s, wearing afros. So we did the same thing that our forefathers did. You can see his fro, the texture of his hair, the color of his skin, wearing garments. The disciples, the prophets, the same thing. They all have fros. Mary, a dark-skinned woman. Christ as a baby has a fro. All these images of our fathers had fros. A fro. Now, let's give me Daniel 7, verse 9.
Daniel chapter 7, verse 9.
Exit out of this.
I beheld till the thrones were cast down.
I beheld till the thrones were cast down.
And the Ancient of Days did sit.
So Daniel, the prophet Daniel, beheld till the thrones were cast down. So all the major ruling empires on earth were thrown down, were taken out of rulership. And then who did sit?
And the Ancient of Days.
And the Ancient of Days, referring to God Almighty. Why? He's the Ancient of Days because he has no beginning nor end of days. He's the supreme power, the first and the last. Read on.
And the Ancient of Days did sit.
Did sit. In order for God to sit, he must have a body. It's told to us that he's a puff of smoke. But he had a body. He did sit. Read on.
Whose garment was white as snow.
And God has a garment white as snow. Read on.
And the hair of his head.
And the hair of his head.
Like the pure wool.
Like the pure wool. That's right. God has pure and woolly hair.
That's right.
That's why black people have pure and woolly hair. That's what we got from. That's why Christ has pure and woolly hair. Because as is the Son, so is the Father. Now, this is a painted, a depiction taken from the Varanate. As you can see, this is the Ancient of Days. God Almighty did sit. And you examine him sitting on a throne. Examine his hair texture. All right? You see the angels surrounding him? These are all black angels. Because this is a depiction of what the angels even look like. What God looked like. What Christ and the disciples look like. Pure wool. God has a fro. We rock our hair just like God rocked our hair. Now we cut our hair. Now we what? We perm our hair. We bald our hair. Because we don't want to have the hair of God or Christ. Now we figure why Christ ran into Egypt. Why? Because Egypt is connected to Israel. Christ was a black man, and he will already be with his brothers, because we inhabited Africa. The Jews started living in Africa. So Christ will be in Egypt safely from King Herod, which was trying to kill him. Now, give me Luke 21, verse 19. Now, how do we get into the coast of West Africa? How were we taken from the shores of West Africa? Let's get that.
Luke chapter 21, verse 19. In your patience possess ye your souls.
What I'm bringing out is hard to understand. It's been years of indoctrination of us not knowing our true heritage. But the Bible says, in your patience, possess your soul. It takes patience to understand this, what I'm bringing out today. Read on.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem,
And when ye shall see Jerusalem
compassed with armies,
surrounded with army, overtaken with armies,
then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
then know that the destruction of Jerusalem is coming to pass. It is very near to you. This is Christ speaking in the book of Luke 21. Read on.
Then let them which are in Judea,
Then let them which are in Judea do what?
flee to the mountains.
Flee to the mountains. Let's get the maps again. It says, then let them which are in Judea flee into the mountains. Get me the mountains right here. These are the mountains. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains. These are the mountains that we fled to. Read on.
And let not them which are in the midst of it depart out.
Let not them which are in the midst of it depart out. Read on.
Sorry. And let them which are in the midst of it depart out. And let not them that are in the countries enter therein too.
If you're outside of Jerusalem, don't enter back into Jerusalem. Read on.
For these be the days of vengeance.
These are the days of vengeance, when prophecy will come to pass, when the true Jews will be taken out of their land, out of rulership. It says, flee into the mountains. Christ fled into Egypt. During the Greeks, the Maccabees fled into Egypt, which are the mountains. See, where did the rest of the Jews flee into? It says, flee into the mountains. Now, let's go back to documents. And we're going to get a book going more into depth. Because the Bible is a historical book, we have to realize. The Bible contains every aspect and details of life. That's why it's called a book of life. Has every detail of our history, who we are as a people, recorded in the scriptures. Get me Babylon from Timbuktu. This is From Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph Windsor. Go to the next page. This is page 84. Can you please start and read from here?
From Babylon to Timbuktu, page 84. In the year of 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state.
So, General what? Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to Jewish state. That's why Christ says, when you see Jerusalem compassed for army, flee to the mountains. Because what? Jerusalem will be compassed by the Roman armies. I know General Vespasian and Titus. Read on.
Put an end to the Jewish state.
And they put an end to the Jewish state. Meaning what? This is the desolation thereof, that all things may be written, may come to pass, may be fulfilled. Because Christ prophesied that Jerusalem would be no more inhabited by the biblical Jews. Read on.
With great slaughter.
With great slaughter. Read on.
During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people.
Now we're going to go into that. It says many atrocities were committed to the residue of people. So there were people that still remained in Jerusalem. We're going to find out what happened to those remaining people that stayed in Jerusalem in a second. Read on.
During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews.
Over 1 million Jews. Over 1 million Jews did what?
Fled into Africa.
Fled into Africa. That's why Christ fled into Africa. That's why the Maccabees and the other Jews fled into Africa, inhabited Egypt, inhabited Libya, inhabited Cyrene, inhabited Ethiopia. We fled into Africa to avoid Roman persecution. Because Africa is joint to Egypt. Africa is joint to Israel.
Fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery, the slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves.
So those are the people that were enslaved in the coast of West Africa. Those were the slaves being brought into America. Now, I made a point saying that what? The residue of the people were committing much atrocities against them because Rome held on to a certain amount of people during that time period. Now, let's go back. Let's go back and let's get Russian icons. Go down. Go down. Go down. Okay, is that it? Yeah, biblical images, actually. Yeah, biblical images. Okay, go up. All right, can you get me this? Imperial Rome. This is Imperial Rome. Many of you have seen this book. Yes, this is a scholarly book written based on the Roman Empire. Can you go to the next page? Let's see the residue of these people that stayed in Jerusalem. Go to the next page. Get me, nope, not that one. Not that one, go back. Go back. Go to the right. Go to the right. Get me that one. Can you read this? Maximize that.
Of them,
it says bizarre games for gladiators. What happened to the residue of the Jews that stayed in Jerusalem? It says much atrocities were committed against them.
most of them were prisoners of war.
Most of them were prisoners of war. Read on.
Slaves.
They were slaves or what?
Or criminals.
Sent
through stern training schools.
Okay, drop down to another part.
Gladiators often fought with mismatched weapons.
Gladiators often fought with mismatched weapons. Read on.
Negroes.
Wait, what?
Negroes.
Who?
Negroes.
Negroes what?
A rare sight in Rome.
A rare sight in Rome.
Were matched with each other. A dwarf might be pitted against a warman.
Wait, go back to gladiators again.
Gladiators.
Now, the subject matter is the gladiators. Many of you seen the movie Gladiator with Russell Crowe. Many of you seen the show Spartacus. Who were these people in these shows? Read on.
Gladiators
were what?
Often fought with mismatched weapons.
So they often fought with mismatched weapons. Read on.
Negroes, a rare sight in Rome, were matched with each other.
Guess what? The gladiators were the Negroes. Spartacus, the show that's on HBO, that was a Negro man with woolly hair. Many of you seen the movie Gladiator with Russell Crowe. That was a Negro. That was actually a specific person in history. And we're going to get into that. Now let's get some of the depictions of the gladiators. Can you go to the other one? Not this one yet. Go to the other one. Go to this one. You see this man? Look at his hair texture. Woolly hair. Just like all the people in the Bible. Just like us. Woolly hair. Froze. Look at his skin texture. Go out of it. Now, look at the people at the top. Dark-skinned people. Go back to that. Look, go up. Look at their fro. Look at their fro. Look at their skin texture. Keep going. Go to the right. Look at these people. That's right. We were the gladiators. We was the Spartacus. We was the gladiators. We were the Maximus. That was us. The whole history is us as a people. Remember what it was said in the Willie Lynch letter. To create a multiplicity of illusions that lead to another illusion, as the floating balls and vacuums. This is the history that's been whitewashed, that's been taken from us as a people. All right? Now go back. Now let's get Russian, go down. Okay, now let's get Russian icons. Now, so many of you saw the movie Gladiator. Many of you saw Russell Crowe playing a specific gladiator that had power in Rome. That person was an actual person, a person of relevance, of importance. Now go down. Who is this gladiator speaking of? Go down, go down, go up, go up, go up, go up. Right here. This gladiator called Russell Crowe was Septimius Severus. It says Septimius, it says the African ruler of Rome, but he was not an African Rome. He was not a descendant of Ham. He was a descendant of Israel. They call him African because they title everybody that came out of Africa Africans. That's what they title us as. So Septimius Severus, a black man. That's right, 193 AD. When did this happen? 193 AD. But Septimius was what? Forced as a slave, as a gladiator. Why? Because he stayed behind. He was one of the people who were enslaved in Jerusalem. And the Romans took him up to fight in the Colosseums, where the catacombs show up pictures and depictions of our black forefathers. So 193 AD is when he conquered and overthrew Rome. He gained status in the Roman army. and him with the 4 generals, and with all the armies of black people, the black descent, or Israelite descent, overthrew Rome. That's why you get Caucasian. After they overthrew Rome, they ran the Romans into the Caucasus Mountains of Russia, Georgia. That's where we get Caucasian today. Why? Because they came from Caucasus Mountains, between the Caspian and Black Sea. We'll get into that more later. But let's go back to Russian icons. And can you press the slideshow play? And we're going to see a couple of our images during the time when we ruled Europe. This is considered the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages. Why? Because dark-skinned people, dark people of dark pigmentation, ruled Europe. Press continue, play back. Saint Benedict, who's a forefather, founder of the Catholic Church. Alexander Pushkin. He created the Russian language. He's the creator of the Russian language, what the Russians speak at this very moment. A black man. Saint Maurice. These are the coat of arms. When we were in power, we were the kings of Europe. We had queens in Europe. This is King Charles. This is what they call the Black Madonna. Those of you have heard stories of. These are depictions of all of our ancestors ruling ancient rule, ruling during the Middle Ages. Christ and Mary. What we saw earlier. This is God and the angels, the depiction of them. These are the coat of arms. We were the families of the German families. We were the Spanish families. We were the Portuguese families. We built Europe, the castles of Europe. Those were all buildings from our forefathers. The Moors. Moor meaning black people. We were the Moors. The Moors brought what? Classical music into Europe. The Moors brought classical music. Well, guess what? Beethoven was called a Moor. Beethoven was a black man. Joseph Haydn was called a black Moor. He was a black man. Yet Mozart was a black man. We constructed the harp. We made the piano. That came from our forefathers when we brought it to Europe. All the buildings was a Moorish architect. The Moors were really actually the Israelites, the Jews that inhabited this area. Moses. It's taken from the book, The Icons. Those who want to look at it afterwards, the books are lined up on the table. King David. This is Andrew the prophet, one of the disciples of Christ. These are the archangels, the depiction of the color of the archangels. This is Peter on the left, and this is Paul on the right. The depiction of our forefathers, black men, according to the Bible. This is another depiction of the angels. See how dark they are? Another apostle. And see it to the right, these are all the prophets. This is the transfiguration of Christ, Elijah, and Moses. Christ in the middle. This is on the Baronate. This is a picture of the whole wall, as you can see. These are some of the images that they were not able to destroy. Look at the texture of the hair. Look at the color of the skin. King David playing on the lyre. This is another depiction. See his hair. This is one of my favorite pictures. Look how dark they are. Look at the hair texture. maybe heard of St. George, the dragon slayer. St. George, this is the actual true depiction of him. These are the Moors when we ruled Europe. These are some of the castles that we live in. Look how dark they are. You have Caucasians on the right, on the left. These are pictures left of the Moors in rulership. Another coat of arms. Maybe you've seen this on the internet, the Pope had one of these black images of the coat of arms on his shield. St. Maurice. Another of our ancestors during the time of the Dark Ages and Middle Ages. There's like a model right there, posing for the picture. Severus that we just saw earlier. Alright, you can stop it now? You can stop it. Now, we just went through the Middle Ages, during the time when we used to rule Europe for about 1,000 years before we were taken out of Europe rulership during 1453, the Renaissance era. Why is it called Renaissance? The rebirth of... Now, let's get Joel 3. Now, let's go back to the coast of Africa. Because we see that the Jews, or the Israelites, migrated into the coast of Africa, but what happened to them in the Bible history? What happened to us in West Coast of Africa? Because many of people know what happened. It's taught to us in the school system. It's taught to us on television station. Joel 3 verse 1.
Joel chapter 3 verse 1. For behold, in those days.
For behold, in those days, meaning a future event. In the future, he said, that's why he says those days, not these days. Read on.
And in that time.
And in that time, read on.
When I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem.
Meaning Judah, which is the American blacks, and Jerusalem, which is Benjamin and Levi. Jerusalem, Benjamin, the West Indians, and Levi, the Haitians. Read on.
I will also gather all nations.
He said, I will also gather all nations. Read on.
And bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat.
God's going to gather all nations and bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat. Where's Jehoshaphat located? In the Middle East, in Israel. That's why all nations, all controversies is pointing towards that land at this very moment. This is prophecy come to pass at this moment. He will bring all nations to what?
And will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat.
The final decision. That's World War III. That's what's going to happen in the future. Read on.
And will plead with them there for my people.
And after World War III, he's going to plead with them there for his people.
And for my heritage, Israel.
His heritage, Israel, the people who he has chosen. Israel. Read on.
Whom they have scattered among the nations.
Whoa. Whom they have scattered among the nations. Let's get a map. Let's get a map. When did this happen in history? Let's get this map right here. Whom they have scattered among the nations. When did this happen? 1619 transatlantic slave trade. We were scattered amongst the nations. Whom they have scattered amongst the nations. Read on.
Whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land.
And parted my land. Jerusalem is parted right now between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Palestine was made a state in Israel. Why? Because the land was parted, which is not their land. Read on.
And they have cast lots for my people.
And they have cast lots for my people. Slave auction blocks. Sold to Master Charles in Virginia. So they have cast lots for my people. Read on.
And have given a boy for an harlot.
And given a boy for a harlot. We were made into breeders. We were breeders to create more slaves for good economics. Read on.
And sold a girl for wine.
And sold a girl for wine. Why? Because women were made into comforters, bedwenches. They were sold for wine. This is actually recorded in the books, in history. Read on.
That they might drink.
That they might drink and get drunk. Read on.
Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine?
And yea, what have you to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine? Tyre and Zidon were what? African nations. They come from the descendants and lineage of Ham. They are Africans according to the Bible. Read on.
Will ye render me a recompense?
It says, and Tyre and Zidon and all the coasts of what?
And all the coasts of Palestine?
And all the coasts of Palestine. Those are the Arabs. What does this make a reference to? The trans-Saharan slave trade. The trans-Saharan slave trade. When they say Africans were selling Africans, no, Africans were selling the Jews of the Bible. They were selling the Israelites, the 12 tribes. They were no way selling Africans. And all the coasts of what?
And all the coasts of Palestine?
And the Arabs. The Africans will sell amongst the Palestinians. Read on.
Will ye render me a recompense?
Will you render me a recompense? Will you pay me back? Read on.
And if ye recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 47. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God.
Because we did not serve the Lord his God. Read on.
With joyfulness.
With joyfulness.
And with gladness of heart.
And with gladness of heart.
For the abundance of all things.
For the abundance of all things. Read on.
Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies.
Therefore shalt thou serve thy enemies. Get slavery. Therefore shalt thou serve thy enemies, which what? Which
the Lord shall send against thee.
He said, I'm going to send your enemies against you because what? You didn't obey the laws. You didn't keep my commandments. So this is what I'm going to do. Read on.
In hunger.
In hunger.
And in thirst.
And in thirst.
And in nakedness.
And in nakedness will serve.
And in want of all things.
And for anything we want, we have to go to them. But for education, for religion, for food, for clothing, for marriage license, driver license, and a want of all things. And what?
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
Shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck. A yoke of iron upon thy neck. These are the images of our forefathers. This is prophecy in the Bible, which is our slave trade. Prophecy which was written over 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years, come to pass. Moses wrote this and it actually came to pass. He shall put a yoke of iron upon thy what?
Upon thy neck.
Upon thy neck.
Until he have destroyed thee.
Until we become destroyed as a people. We lost our sense of self. We lost our nationality. We lost who we are as a people. We were destroyed when the chains came off. Go to some more pictures. Go to the Django. Maybe you saw this movie, Django. This is a depiction of our slavery. This is what happened to us. This is recorded to the Bible. The Bible bears witness with our history that we are the people of the Bible. The 12 tribes of Israel. Judah, the American blacks, which are sold during the transatlantic slave trade. You have Benjamin, the West Indian blacks. You have Levi, the Haitians, which are the biblical Israelites according to the Bible. Read on.
It says,
now give me Esau.
Until he have destroyed thee. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee.
He said the Lord shall bring a nation against you, Israelites, from far.
From the end of the earth.
And they're going to come from the end of the earth. They're going to come from Europe. They're going to come from America. Read on.
As swift as the eagle flieth.
As swift as the eagle flieth. So this nation represents the eagle. Give me Obadiah 1 verse 1. Let's get in more detail, more depth of what nation represents the eagle that came against us during the time of America. Read on.
Obadiah verse 1. The vision of Obadiah. Thus saith the Lord God.
The vision of Obadiah, a prophet. Thus saith the Lord God concerning what?
Concerning Edom.
Concerning Edom, the nation of Edom. Read on.
We have heard a rumor from the Lord.
Now Edom is the forefather of all Caucasian people, all white people. That's where we come from. Edom. Read on.
And an ambassador is sent among the heathen.
Go to verse 3.
Verse 3. The pride of thine heart have deceived thee.
The pride of thy heart have deceived thee.
Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock.
So we found out what Septimius Severus did what? He led the Caucasian to the cleft of the rocks. Read on.
Whose habitation is high.
Whose habitation is high. Read on.
That saith in his heart. Who shall bring me down to the ground? Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle.
And they exalt themselves as the eagle. The symbol of Greece was the eagle. The symbol of Rome was the eagle. The symbol of America is the eagle. Though thou exalt thyself as the what?
As the eagle.
As the eagle, then what?
And though thou set thy nest among the stars.
And they said, when did this happen? 1969. They set their nest amongst the stars, and they said, the eagle has landed on the moon. The nation that came against us from far was America. The eagle in the Holy Bible. The Bible is showing prophecy of our slave trade in exact detail. Now let's go back to Deuteronomy 28. Give me verse 68.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again. Now give me what Egypt means according to the Bible. Because Israel was taken out of Egypt. So when do we ever go back to Egypt? Egypt is synonymous with another word. Read on.
Exodus chapter 20, verse 2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt.
Which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Read on.
Out of the house of bondage.
Egypt is synonymous with the house of bondage, meaning slavery. Now let's get Deuteronomy 28, verse 68.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again.
Into bondage, slavery again. With what?
With ships.
With what?
With ships.
That's what the transatlantic slave trade was about. Us coming to America with ships. Being removed far from our borders. This is Bible prophecy.
Right.
Taken from the coast of West Africa into America with slave ships. Read on.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee.
By the way I'm telling you. Read on.
Thou shalt see it no more again.
You will never see your homeland again. You will never see Jerusalem again. Read on.
And there
in America you do what?
Ye shall be sold.
You shall be sold into who?
Your enemies.
For what?
For bondmen.
For bondman, slave man.
And bondwoman.
And slave woman. Yes, when we came to the shores of America, we were sold as slaves for bondman and bondwoman. Read on.
And no man shall buy you.
And no man shall redeem us from our slavery. Now, give me Deuteronomy 28, verse 32. We're almost done. We're almost done.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 32.
Come out of it.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be what?
Given unto another people.
Shall be given unto another people. Come down.
And thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long.
So it says, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given into another people. Now let's look at this right here. And thy eyes shall look and fill with them long for all the day long. Now this was taken from the African Museum in New York City. This was a law. This was a law. We go down, right here. Read this right here.
1706, an act to encourage the baptizing of Negro, Indian, and mulatto slaves. All children born of slave mothers shall be slaves as well.
Read it again.
All children born of slave mothers shall be slaves as well.
Okay, now let's get verse 41.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 41. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters.
We shall beget sons and daughters. Read on.
But thou shalt not enjoy them.
For we should not enjoy them. Why?
For they shall go into captivity.
For they shall go into captivity. Go to, let's see. Go to this one. Okay, read that again.
Thou shalt beget sons and daughters.
We will beget sons and daughters, have sons and daughters, read on.
But thou shalt not enjoy them.
We will not enjoy them. Why?
For they shall go into captivity.
And that's what happened to them. They went into captivity. Now read that.
Slavery was also hard on children. African children were precious to their families, but they were only valued as labor by New York slave owners. Owners might keep one child to help with chores, but did not want to support more. When children got older, they were usually separated from their mothers and sold to live and work in strangers' homes and businesses. A hard life that began at age 4, 5, or 6.
Now read verse 41 again.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 41. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters.
We will beget sons and daughters, and what will happen?
But thou shalt not enjoy them.
Why?
For they shall go into captivity.
They were given unto another people. They were forced to work at 4 years old and 5 years old as slave labor. Why? Because this is Bible prophecy. Give me verse 37.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment.
We will become an astonishment. Everywhere we go, the price is dropping in the neighborhood. It's here comes the Negroes. We became an astonishment as a people. Read on.
A proverb.
A proverb, a wise saying. And Negroes are lazy. This is what they say about us. When we built America, how could we be lazy? Read on.
And a byword.
And a byword. meaning we will be called outside our God-given name. We will be called Negroes. We will be called colored people. We will be called Afro-Americans, African-Americans. These are the names that we undertook when we went into slavery. This is Bible prophecy of our slave trade. Now get me Deuteronomy chapter 30.
Deuteronomy chapter 30,
Verse 1.
verse 1. And it shall come to pass.
And it shall come to pass that what?
When all these things that come upon thee.
That when all these things come upon thee, read on.
The blessing.
The blessings.
And the curse.
And the curses. The curses have come upon us as a people. The blessings happened during the time of King David and King Solomon. We ruled up for 80 years. Read on.
Which I have set before thee.
God set before us where? In the Bible. Read on.
And thou shalt call them to mind.
And that's what we're doing. We're calling them to mind. The curses we're calling to mind at this very moment.
Among all the nations.
Among all the nations where?
Whither the Lord thy God hath driven thee.
We were driven among all the nations. And this very day, we're calling the curses to mind. Because the curses show who we are as a people. The curses show that we are the Jews, the real Jews. We are the biblical 12 tribes of Israel. That's who we are. Because we broke the laws, we were sent into captivity. This information is not being taught in the education system, nor a religious institution, nor on a television stations. Read on.
It says, and shalt return unto the Lord thy God.
And we return, read on.
And shall obey his voice. According to all that I command thee this
read
day.
On.
Thou and thy children.
Thou and your children obey the Bible. Read on.
With all thine heart.
With all thy heart.
And with all thy soul.
And with all thy soul. Everything in your spirit. Read on.
That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee.
Then he will return you from your slavery. Read on.
And have compassion upon thee. And will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee.
We were scattered amongst all nations. He said, when you return, I'm going to come and gather you from all nations, whether he has scattered you. That is the what? Salvation. That is what you call the rapture. That's called what the Israelites being gathered from all nations for serving bondage and being set where?
It says, and being set. Whither the Lord thy God hath driven thee, and shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt obey his voice, then shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, and with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, that the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity, and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee. If any of thine be driven out unto the uttermost parts of heaven, which we were driven out in the islands of Jamaica, the islands of Tobago, read on. From thence will the Lord thy God gather thee. He said, from thence I will gather thee from those islands, read on. And from thence will he fetch thee. From thence will I fetch you, read on. And the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good, and multiply thee above thy fathers. So, with all that being said, he said, even all this happened to you as a people. You suffer in America for about 400 years. You were enslaved as a people. You've been oppressed as a people. You struggled. You went to struggle after struggle. You fought. You've been fighting all your life. He says, if you come back, he said, from thence will I gather you from all the nations. From thence will I wake up and return you back to who you are. That you are the biblical Israelites. You are the 12 tribes. You are the Jews of the Bible. And I will return you back into your homeland, which is Jerusalem. That's where we come from. But with that, so thank you for coming to today's event of Black History, Black Heritage, and the King James Holy Bible. Any questions? Any questions? I'm willing to take questions. We also have shirts.
We Israelites, that's what the book says, not what the crook said. Look, I want that crook's head. He was born with no pigment, the crook's red. And he gon' pay for what he did to us with bloodshed. When Christ shows his head and turns the mud red, coming from Edom, his garment's blood red. That's why I spare not and cry loud like I'm wired up. Blazing trails all fired up, while y'all lifting y'all pastors up. Starstruck, accepting half truth, and if you do, that makes you a half-breed, scarred much. Worshipping the image of the beast, making love to Esau in between the sheep.
you imagine. Because the disciples of Christ understood this truth is more than just about reading the scriptures. This truth is about action. This truth is about doing. And this is what the disciples showed us. Your job, brothers, black man, Latin man, is to look out after your brothers and sisters that have need. If they have need, you as a leader is to fulfill the need. If they have no food, what is reading a scripture to them going to do? If they have no clothes to wear, what is reading a scripture going to do for them? Nothing. Let's get that in James now. James told you about you faith-only brothers.
What the elder read in Acts was there was a system in place. Okay, people are going to come to us after we've read them the scriptures. Let's put something in place so when they come to us, we can help them.
This truth is about building the nation of Israel. They're going to come in sick. They're going to come in naked. They're going to come in hungry. It's not just read a verse. That's a part of it. I'm not knocking. That's the main thing. But behind that, we have to do those things necessary for them to survive.